Greetings, loyal listeners from across the galaxy. You may recall from our last mission log that the crew eventually left the traveling zoo ship and landed on a planet partially controlled by the Nazia. They were attacked by robots and fled with captive natives embedded with Nazia antennae, then removed one of the antennae and decided how to handle their new passengers. And now, Dungeon to the Stars continues.
So you're going to pick up a rather large object coming this direction from another planet in the distance. Looks like a moon coming this way.
That's no moon. I actually don't like the shirt. I only wore it because it was clean.
So like I said, let's get the fuck out of here. Get rid of the space depth antennas.
Perhaps we should dump the live subject, and if they can still track us with the antenna, then we can dump that as well.
Right.
And prepare for dumping.
Alright, you want to shove your little man into an airlock?
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
absolutely.
Went through all of this moral arguing trouble just to now eject both of them.
Well, I'd say, it's all the technology. You're going to leave this area, not have to worry about dealing with it later. But carrying some of it with us, and then they can track us with it.
I don't know if that will be a solution.
Well, we would remove all the evidence, basically, and run to a new system, or wherever else we go. We don't have to worry about them following us, if possible. I don't know, maybe they can follow us as we, travel, but they might want to investigate why we spaced all of this stuff. Well, I don't know that I wish to quit this system just yet. Did have some designs on destroying the main antenna on the planet below.
You could still attack that before this other ship gets here. It's coming from the planet, so it's pretty far away.
It's just that the planet-sized ship coming towards us, kick our ass.
Right, but Zaoshan doesn't want to leave. He wants to take out the antenna. What's the point of putting this guy out the airlock? Because they can still send interceptor craft to find us, should they be able to triangulate our position. Okay, and we still have the headgear from the one person that I dissected, I guess. So are we going to space that too, or just leave that in our ship while we try to carry on with our mission? Just the organic body for now. The attached functioning antenna.
So just like a living thing, we're just like rocketing it out into space.
All in favor of spacing the antenna? Yes. It'll be me, probably.
Alright, Dr. P, you pick up a little squiggly guy.
Oh.
And you've touched him before. Luckily you have your suit on because they're both hairy and greasy. Toss this hairy, greasy little elf-like tentacle face man into an airlock. Zaoshan can open the exterior hatch.
Oh, yeah, no, I straight up do.
Whoosh! Gets sucked out into space. Close your hatch.
Sure do. Repressurize.
His little tiny body freezes in space.
Oh, okay.
I'll
So
sacrifice
confused about this.
Some sacrifices must
His antenna still blinks though.
Well, technically, as part of my Order of Songbird, I don't technically know if I took part in the death of this creature, but either way, just in case, I need to either craft something or do some performance in order to honor his death in combat. So I smoke moon kelp and try to blow out clouds and in remembrance of this sludgy ape creature.
Alright, do you have any moon kelp in your possession, or do you need to subtract some green points from Zaoshan?
I've got.
Alright, smoke some of your personal supply.
So we have a ship coming at us. Should we be
what is the
manning
status of
guns
the
right
ship?
now, or?
The ship's very large and it's coming this way. It's traveling from another planet, so you've got a minute or so before it gets here because it's so large and traveling a long
Like
distance.
the
But
other side of the planet. Yeah, we can get down to the antenna before that big ship hits us.
you guys have time to start attacking the antenna.
Yeah, if that's what we're here to do, then
To do a scouting run. Unassailable, I don't want to commit suicide.
Do you want to roll a perception check as you observe that area?
I got a natural 20.
I got a 12. I got an unnatural 27.
15.
Zaoshan, you'll notice that the other groups of other clusters of these creatures are much closer together than that other village that you guys was very far away. These are much closer together. They seem much better fortified. They have mounted weapons, so like turrets and stuff. Casablanca will also see the turrets, but you guys will both have spotted defensive weapons, much stronger than what was at the previous place you landed.
Maybe perhaps we shouldn't get too cocky.
It's clear to everybody, pretty much. There's a display in every room. The antenna that we have to produce a friendly signal, perhaps, so that we can approach.
Roll me knowledge engineering to see what you would need to do that.
Natural 20.
Yeah, it needs to be attached to a low-level electronic source like a brain. That's what powers it. So currently, since it's not attached to any living creature's brain, it's not powered.
What do you guys think? I'm going to relay that information. I'm like, hey, we can get here safe. We need to do that. Well, at least we know from this, Dr. Paracelsus, that the organic subject that we had earlier that we sent out into space was, in fact, useless. Well, we can always pick up Another organic subject. Terrorize it. Experiment on it. Appropriate it. Don't have a lot of options right now. Do you guys want to land and send out a party to take out this antenna, or what's the plan? Because I can't do anything to help because I don't have anyone. When someone wants to volunteer for me to attach the antenna to their head, there's not much we can do at this point.
Because I feel like there's a lot we could do here, and it's a great place if we were able to like free these sentient beings and stuff and rid of this robotic presence. However, what if we try as best we can to save this place, and then the ship that comes just so happens to be trying to destroy this place? So it's like then we on two fronts. So maybe we need to just take this information that we have that Zalshan has been able to receive and map for perhaps future visitations.
But this is basically a cut and run scenario that you're throwing out. Is there any other option that we can do to save this place now? But I understand your apprehension because maybe we save the place and then it's just going to be fucked later. The only thing I can think of is one of us puts the antenna in our head, and it seems like no one's going to step up, so I will put the antenna in my head if I want and try to fight the power and maybe corrupt their system or allow us to attack the antenna so that I won't be a crazy person.
Do we need to put the antenna in someone, though?
Yes, because we don't have a organic host.
I mean, right now, we're in danger of being attacked from, like, two sides.
Zaltron said he didn't want to leave, so I'm giving options of what to do instead of leaving.
Zalshan, I think we should leave.
I think we should leave.
We're gonna end up all dying if we stay here, I think.
Perhaps discretion is the better part of valor in this case.
Would you like to escape with some stealth there, Zalshan?
Yeah, I can roll a stealth. I rolled a 23.
I rolled really low perception, and even though their perception's really high, they're not going to spot you escaping. They just know that this planet's send a distress signal, so this thing's going to come and guard it. So you'll be able to fly away, and by the time you get a good distance away, you'll see that now that this large ship is orbiting it like a moon. Which direction would you have liked to have fled? Back towards some planets you've already passed, or towards the center of this galaxy? It's 3 suns.
But yeah, we haven't liked anywhere that we've been before this, so why don't we go towards something new?
Horizons would be better. Perhaps conglomerate horizons would be safe for us now that a considerable amount of time has passed since attack on the facility.
The next planet you guys will be approaching, though, seems to have a wobbly orbit. Roll me a perception check as you near it.
26.
18.
11.
4.
Yeah, this is the closest planet to those 3 suns for anyone that rolled high enough to see it. Anyone that didn't is probably just napping or doing something else, sewing. Orbit seems to be wobbly because the 3 suns seem to orbit each other, and that seems to throw off the orbit of this planet.
Yeah, it'll throw off the center of mass.
Yeah, so it's pretty erratic. Looks from where you are to be a hazy, desolate planet. You can't see through what looks like a thick fog, yellow fog covering most of the planet.
Can I roll an astrogeography roll to see if the fog is acidic or corrosive in any way?
Mm-hmm.
That's a nat 20 plus 7.
Alright, it seems to be a naturally occurring element. With a knowledge nature roll, even if you just take a 10, you could know enough to know it seems to be some sort of pollen-like moss or lichen that fills the air.
I say, let's go down and check it out.
Okay, cool.
Don't you guys want to sing through this thick layer of pollen?
Pollen fog.
It's thick and yellow, and it moves about all over your ship, sticks to the sides, and it blows about. It's kind of violently windy. You can land on the desolate surface, and now roll a perception check when you do.
That is a 10.
91.
Natural 1.
Alright, so very desolate, very thick yellow pollen. Dr. Paracelsus, you have no qualms at all with your breathing apparatus being in this type of environment. You've been in environments like this before, so it looks hard to see through. It looks desolate, but let's say, Dr. P, since you rolled high enough, you did think you saw what looks like a sign of civilization, although primitive, near the ship.
Well, I will relay that information to the group and say it's a primitive civilization, so maybe we should, you guys might want to use some sort of breathing apparatus outside, depending on what type of pollen or spores we have going on. But I would like to decorate myself using the pollen.
Once you guys go outside, you don't have any of the pollen yet. Once you go outside, you'll have no trouble covering yourself in it because it's blowing in the air all around you.
A hologram appears by Dr. Paracelsus and says, Dr. Paracelsus, would you mind anointing Yoshi with the pollen when you go outside as well, please? Sure.
The colleague gets in his face.
You don't want to get his fur dirty?
Yeah, I'd rather not breathe in such pollen.
Aw, he pretty blue fur.
Sounds like Tomoko's going to put on a suit as well.
It's gonna turn green.
Protect her purple fur. So, and there's more suits that would also fit UKES that are on board the ship that are the original Shinkawaharans.
Yeah,
But they're
I'll
your
put on
size.
One of those.
If you don't have a vine connected to the ship, it can still filter the air, but if you leave with a vine attached to it, it can be attached to the Zaoshan and you can breathe clean air from the Zaoshan. You just have to use that many green points for every foot that you get away from the ship. Zaoshan can grow a vine that can follow and you'll have perfectly clean air if you want that. If not, you'll just have a filter. It's kind of your call.
Filter's fine.
Filter's fine?
Yeah, do a filter.
Okay.
Can we bring an offering to these natives? Perhaps a little bundle of moon kelp, if Zaoshan is.
Boom kill.
And a flower.
I specifically produce the warp-filtered moon kelp that we grew in the warp. 100? Okay.
That's at least a whole quarter of
As you guys
moon
are
kelp.
like harvesting, there's a pop-up that says, "Did you know I currently have enough green points to make 1.5 miles worth of air tube rope?"
Yeah, if we get out there and it's like really crazy and impossible to breathe, we might come running back
Yeah,
in.
Zaoshan scan the atmosphere. The air itself does not seem to be unbreathable. It seems to be breathable air. It's just full of this pollen.
I can even hover a short while back so I can maintain control of Yoshi and can come running in as cavalry in case y'all need it.
Cause that would look crazy too. It's like hovering around slowly, and it's got all these tendrils, like some sort of giant, like plant octopus coming towards this. I'll take some water and draw flowers on me with water. That way, when I go out and all the pollen gets attached to the suit, there'll be different colorization when it attaches to my suit. So I have nice artsy symbols.
I mean,
all
the
around
suit
my-
itself seems to be made of like a plant-like material. It's like green and hard, made of a plant shell. You've just got some spit flowers drawn on it. Would you guys like to leave through the bay door, the largest door? That way it's easy for Yoshi to get out.
I want to capture some pollen in a vial for further study later on down the line.
All right, you won't have a problem. As soon as you open the door, a bunch of pollen whooshes. Some of it's gonna whoosh up into the bay of the ship, which is near the arboretum, and you all are gonna walk down the ramp. And the ramp will close down behind you. Argal Gargal, you do not require a suit, which is good because there's probably not one that would fit your frame. But the pollen doesn't seem to bother you when you go out there. You're lucky.
Awesome.
Your nostrils aren't that great. But everyone is covered in the pollen. Almost immediately walk outside, it just cakes up on you. You're all covered in a yellow dust.
Curses.
And you guys can move as a group toward the small village you see. It seems like a whole lot of structures. Seems pretty simple. Structures don't seem to be made out of much except mud and rock. Not that there appears to be a whole lot of resources on this planet besides this fungus in the air.
I'd say approach cautiously towards like whatever the biggest structure is. Yoshi by my side,
I'll go with
and I'll have the moon kelp in my arms as an offering and the flower.
Alright, you guys can approach the village. I mean, as soon as you reach the outskirts of the village, you're going to be greeted by the folks here, who are in awe of you, larger beings than them. About half the size of you, Kess. Like 1.5 feet tall.
Anybody want to roll linguistics to communicate with them, perhaps?
They're all jumping around. They seem excited to see you. They're squeaking their little tiny voices.
16 on linguistics.
I mean, I don't.
Yeah, I'll roll for linguistics. I got a 12.
I have 13.
Yeah, none of you guys are able to understand what they're saying with those rolls.
Unnatural 20.
Ooh, Argal Gargal, though. Something about the squeaky noise they make. Saying, big one, big one.
I sit down so I'm closer to them.
You get eye to eye with them. They calm down a little bit, and what appears to be their leader comes through. All of them are naked, but this one is the only one you've seen that's wearing any item of clothing. This one's wearing a fancy hat, and he's the only one that's wearing a hat. It's a hat made of stone. It's pointy.
I would sit down next to him and offer the moon kelp.
Hold out a quarter of moon kelp, but for a creature that size, that's a lot of moon kelp.
Pick all these people up and have them.
Collapse. Roll a perception check as this village full of
We can
people.
offer them free rides on Yoshi, pony rides, maybe. That'd be fun.
Roll a perception check as the villagers crowd around you
I
guys.
think that seems pretty doable.
It's like, I don't know,
14.
like a good place that we can.
Tomoko will look around and see they have very tiny buildings. They all have similar markings carved into their buildings, like a symbol of their tribe. On the outskirts of the tribe are stones stacked up around to make a short wall. And within the short wall are basketball-sized furry creatures.
Wow.
Like lumps of flesh with fur that seem to just be rolling around and bumping into each other and bumping into these rocks.
Let's
And
figure
they're-
out what those things are.
Those things they're almost as large as the people. They're almost
I feel
shoulder
like if we
shoulder
bring
height.
those aboard, they're going to multiply. Yeah, I've seen
Yeah, right.
the fuzzy episodes of Star Trek. I know exactly, but I want one for to study. Can someone maybe, I don't know, communicate that we are here on a mission of peace, and I will give them the moon kelp and ask them what those furry creatures are and what's with all the pollen?
Do I actually speak their language, or did I just, through sheer dumb luck, understand them?
Let's say I will give you advantage on understanding anything in the future because you understand that first bit. I'll let you roll twice and take the better result. So anything else you would like to say or understand, you have advantage.
Then I will offer them some moon kelp and ask what these fuzzy things are.
I'll try to help too.
Roll was a 5, so fail.
17.
9.
Yeah, they also understand what you're saying. I mean, they get that you're offering them something and we'll take your gift. But none of you are speaking their language.
Fuzzy things, and then point at the moon kelp and say, and then throw our hands up and be like, huh?
I don't know what you're trying to say.
Yeah, they know about exactly what you roll, which isn't great so far.
We need to show them how it works.
The chief does seem to be just like smelling it and looking at it.
I will go ahead and cultivate a part of it that will be the part that I would smoke, and then I will cultivate a tiny part of it identical for them to then have while they see me smoke mine, so that they will know that.
Do you have an apparatus to smoke out of, or do you have rolling papers or something?
I mean, if I smoke moon kelp all the time, I'm pretty sure I have something that
If you would like to spend 1 green point of Zalshan's plant material, you could have cultivated some rolling papers from the garden. I could assume you would have done that because you like having stuff to roll with. As long as Zalshan will subtract 1 GP, which is no big deal to Zalshan, I'm sure.
Everybody's got rolling papers. 10 GP.
All right.
I'll send y'all a ground without supplies.
So you twist 2 up, keep 1 for yourself, and hand a big doobie to the chief.
I hand an appropriately dosed size to the small.
So you try to roll a tiny joint.
Yes, I roll 1 for me that is my size and 1 for them that is their size. We can do visual learning here. You know, they will have the identical thing that I have except their size, so they'll be able to hopefully infer our actions.
Like 1 for us is like 3 for them, so give 3 to pass it out so they can try to get as many people hooked as possible.
There you go. I do that. Little tiny ones.
Yeah, so you roll 1 regular sized joint, 3 tiny ones, which we'll say is 2 joints equivalent of your moon kelp supply. But yeah, you guys can pass it on. Does someone want to light it? Someone got a flint and steel or a lighter or any other apparatus, a weapon that can light these things? Or
I have magic.
yeah, you want to magic it up?
Yes.
I rolled high enough that I'm going to allow you to spark. So Argyle Gargyle snaps Gargyle fingers or blows it out of your nose, however you want to light them. Fire comes from somewhere on your body, and you're able to light these dubs, which you and these people will pass around and smoke, and they'll enjoy your company and squeak at you and stuff. You can tell they're trying to communicate with you, and you can tell they're trying to communicate about their furry ball creatures.
Yeah, I want to go take a look at the furry creatures.
It's not hard. Their village is very small, and you're very large. You take a couple steps around the village, you see this little enclosure full of little basketball creatures.
Can I roll a knowledge of nature and see like what they're about? Anybody want to help me out?
Mm-hmm.
How close to? I guess I can go pretty fucking close to this village. About
21.
I got a 18.
Just little furry ball creatures bouncing around an enclosure.
But with a knowledge of nature, are they like picking up the pollen? Are they eating the pollen?
I mean, the pollen definitely sticks to them.
There's like big furry sheep that are rolling balls, basically.
That's all you see, yeah. Fur. Little lumps of flesh with short fur.
Can I
have
those to me trying to
spells that allows me to comprehend but not speak languages. I would like to use it.
You can understand. So the people that have followed you over to this little enclosure are just squeaking over and over again, Porcos, porcos!
And is that a word that I understand, or like a name?
They seem to be identifying these creatures as porcos. They're pointing at them, and you don't know the word or understand, but they just seem to be calling these creatures porcos.
I said I would like to pick one up unless everyone else is opposed. No, cool.
No, dude.
Now you reach out for one, the people don't seem to object. You can pick it up. It's a lump of fur and flesh, although if you feel around on it with your hands, you will find a row of teeth
Ooh.
hidden under the fur.
Alright, well, where's this butt?
Wait, what's gonna happen here?
You can find its butt if you want to. It's deep in the
Can I
fur.
ask these people if we can fuck this thing?
Hey
Yeah.
man, space gets lonely, alright? We need some space sheep. This might be a fun thing to add to the zoo that we know about if we ever decide to go back there or can go back there. I guess I'll put it back down, walk away. We have no way to communicate with these guys.
They don't seem to be great conversationalists. I mean, if you try to communicate with them, they'll reference themselves as Mokin. Those creatures as Porcos. They don't seem to talk about much else. They don't seem to be like full of conversation. Roll a perception check as you guys are getting to know these tiny people.
I got a 14.
23.
I would like to point to the crest to see what they shout.
21 for Zhaoshan, 8 for Yoshi. 23 for me.
17.
So if you try to point to the crest cast, that's the Mokin thing. They'll say the same thing they said before. It's a squeaky noise to you don't understand. Only Argyle understands what they're saying, and even it to him is just a made-up word. Anyone that rolled high enough will hear a ululating sound like coming through the fog of pollen to the east of where you are.
How does the
They run towards their village, towards their small buildings, and emerge with tiny weapons.
Alright, I'd say let's follow them to the battlefront.
They seem to be running over to their where the Porcos are and just having their weapons ready.
Yeah, I put my little hand on my sword, but I don't unsheath it, and I stand guard with them in solidarity.
vaguely confused?
I'll drink a shield potion and stand guard as well with my laser crossbow.
Over the
I rolled
foggy-
a 20 to handle animal on Yoshi to defend the port.
Over the horizon, through the fog, come several other tiny creatures about the same size as these little humanoids, all wearing rock armor and carrying little tiny weapons, screaming at the top of their little tiny squeaky lungs. And yeah, they're charging this way until they see all of you guys, which are incredibly huge, especially the collie and this giant dinosaur there, freeze in their tracks and then run away screaming. You've just frightened away a warring tribe. The group around the Porcos celebrates.
Can we chase after them? I mean, like, can we cover that ground pretty
Yeah, of
easily?
course. You're much larger than them. You can catch up to these tiny people if you would like to. Do you want to chase
I'd
after
like
these?
to perception check and try to find out the leader, and I would like to snatch him up and bring him back, or like a little sit-down powwow. But I'm
I'll
going to, I guess, perception to find the honcho. That is a 21.
All of them seem to be similarly clad and carrying some of their weapons. There doesn't seem to be a clear leader among this group. It seems just to be a raiding party. Unlike this, even the other group, everyone looked exactly the same except the leader who had a funny hat. There's no funny hat wearer in this group or anything.
Well, I still want to snatch one up and bring him back for a little parlay and moonkelp session.
Roll a C&B to grab one.
Yeah, see, I rolled 25 on
Yeah, the collie can grab one.
Alright, I'll grab another one, just so we have two of them. How about that? No, the 7.
So the guy you try to grab gets away, but Nakali has a little, about a 1.5 foot tall little man. So you're palming this guy as you guys walk back to the village that you have first arrived at. Pollen blowing all around, covering your suits. You make it back to the village with this little man in your hand. He's of course protesting and trying to stab you with his little weapon.
I got myself a
I wanna-
souvenir.
Can I, let's disarm him and wrap him up with a little bit of cable that I have. Oh my god, like it's
I
way
just
too.
have rope.
You have rope? Alright,
Yeah, I
well,
have
let's.
rope.
Someone roll a survival check to tie him up with whatever rope you have then. It's gonna be a very big rope wrapping up on this little guy, but it will still work.
I got a natural 18 on survival, and that's going to be probably a 22.
I mean, he's wriggling. He's trying to get out of it. He looks like he probably could wriggle to get out of it, but you guys are big, and he knows if he does, you could easily murderize him. So he just seems frustrated at this point. But you got him tied up. You're at the village with this tied up other tribes person.
Can I pick up the sword and shield? Do you have like a little sword and shield with them? I guess is that.
Yeah, a little tiny. Well, they're more like tiny stone weapons. It's just like a
But they're.
blunt stone blade and a rock you can use to block. Yeah, they're just very.
Can I
crude
pick those two things up and look at him and kind of give him a shrug? Like, oh, I'm trying to ask him why.
Yeah.
Why do you need these things? But I don't.
Linguistics, if you want to just try to.
Yeah.
Yeah, and our comprehend language person can let us know what he says, maybe.
Well, it's a 5 then.
He doesn't get what you're saying. Although Argyle will pick up, he is cursing at the Mokin. He's saying Mokin in a very, mean way. He's saying the same word the other tribe called themselves, but you can tell he's saying it in a way that's he feels like it's derogatory. And the tribe that you guys are part of, or that you arrived at first, they're calling this little man, they're calling him a babini, which they're saying in an insulting way, like calling him a little baby. So they seem to both be insulting each other.
So do we want to try to get them to smoke together, or do we just publicly execute this little creature?
Can I eat it?
Yoshi might be interested in it. Do we want to talk, we'll start a
We'll
peace talk.
see if our mind expanding. We'll see if our mind expanding, sub clears up this little thing, and if not, we could always give Yoshi a snack.
I actually have a spell that makes meat more nutritious.
So keep that in your pocket for if things go awry. If you guys want to pass those doobies that were going around and try to smoke this guy out and see if he gets more pacified, you can do that.
We need hats or seasoning. This is our man.
I mean, he definitely gets high and he has his little squeaky voice, but he still seems to be argumentative with this other tribe, who still call him a little baby, as far as Argyle can tell, and he's calling them Mokines, which when he says it kind of sounds like monster now than whenever he says it to them. Like before, whenever you heard them say it about themselves, it just sounded like a made-up word. But now that this guy's saying with inflection, it sounds more like monster and baby.
Oh, did we choose the wrong tribe?
I would vote that maybe we give this guy some moon kelp and set him free as like a gesture of goodwill to the other tribes. But that would probably piss off the tribe.
Yeah. You can tell the tribe that you're with wants you to execute this guy even after smoking with him. They seem to think that you guys are here that you are gods that just came to protect this tribe and are going to reap vengeance on this little baby.
Yeah. Well,
Baby man.
how about we pretend to execute him and set him free so that he knows that, and he can pass on to other people that we're not inherently bad. And then the little sheep like creature that I'm holding, like maybe we can slaughter that and use it as like blood proof that we killed something. Like walk away down the dunes a little bit and pretend like we're executing.
And you want to take one of those porcos also? I hope they don't notice you're taking a porco.
Yeah, I've been holding on to one of them. I mean, what do you guys think? Or we can just kill this guy right in front of everybody. Whatever.
no.
Or,
I'm alright with your plan.
I feel like we don't know what's happening, though.
well, how about we let this guy go and we follow him back to his village and see.
Yeah, we like do the exact same thing we did with them. Like just go and check out everything to see if they're on the up and up. And if they try to attack us during our little educational experiment, then we can always just kill them.
So I say we pretend to walk him out to the desert and kill him, and then let him go, and then follow him back to his tribe. All in favor?
Yeah.
You guys grab the tied up man and walk away. Now, if you guys leave this village, that's going to take Yoshi outside of Zhaoshan's range, which means it'll be up to Tomoko to control Yoshi after that.
Can I follow them?
You can follow them if you want to climb. If you want to climb into the atmosphere at a low level and hover around.
Yeah, it's 24.
Yeah, you can hover it just above. You need to be up in the pollen, so it'd be hard to see anyway. Unless you want to flash any lights, I think the pollen will hide where you are, but you can be up enough that you can scan them. Visually, it'd be hard to see them. The pollen will block your... you won't be able to, perceive them visually, but you have scanners and stuff, so you'll know they're down there.
Yeah, can I be like just below the pollen curtain?
Yeah, you want to dip down, that's fine. That'll make you somewhat visible, though, if that's okay.
Fine by me.
You follow, and as you pass over the village, the little tiny people are in awe as your ship passes over the village, as they were in awe of your whole crew, how large you are and amazing. You will have kidnapped one porco and taken one little man. You're keeping the porco, I assume, Dr. P?
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll take this porco with you, and take this little man that's tied up in a big rope out far enough in the pollen. I mean, it doesn't take very long before you're pretty sure they can't see you because the pollen is so thick. You can do what you want with this tiny man once you get out there.
I bet we untie him and follow him, and have as many people with the best perception keeping eyes on him constantly so we can make it back to his tribe, and then maybe also relay with Zhaoshan, who's hovering above us. To give us the bird's eye view.
Untie him.
Alright, he's untied. He immediately falls to his knees and seems to be begging for mercy. Argyle, you're the only one there that can understand him still. He's being like, big one, very big one. Bowing.
We followed the tracks of the not quite that came through previously and followed them back to where they came from.
I mean, you don't know where they came from. They ran off into the pollen and they were hard to see. And this guy is still just begging for mercy. He hasn't run away or anything yet.
I will just pat him on the head.
Roll me a diplomacy check.
That's 18.
Pat him on the head. He seems confused, but he stops screaming big ones over and over again in his little tiny voice. And he just looks confusedly at you, Kess. And you're only like twice his size, so maybe not as intimidating as Nikali. And he just says, big one, in a very questioning voice.
And then I point it in the general direction that I thought that other tribe, the opposing tribe, ran.
He'll turn and look that direction, look back at you. Looks confused.
What if I drop the sheep creature next to him and see what happens?
Hey, you put the porco down?
Yeah, put the porco down.
Puts his hands up and says, "Ee! Porco! Ee! Porco!" He shoves it away. He tries to push it away, and it rolls away like a ball.
Alright, well, I'll pick it back up again, I guess. And maybe find where the porco's mouth is, and put it as close to the creature, the little guy, as possible to chase him away towards, hopefully, where he thinks safety is.
And you can try to find his teeth and hold that ball the direction. The guy doesn't seem afraid of it. He just seems off-put by it. He still screams, "Ee! Porco!" and tries to shove it away when you put it at his face. Like whenever it's like you holding a basketball toward him and he's like shoving it just a little like a kid. You're an adult, he's a child trying to shove a basketball out of your hands.
Not everything I know, guys. I'm sorry. I'm trying to be as nice as possible. He wants to go to town.
Right.
Go back to where he came from.
And then I
ET
ask
phone
him
home.
to lead us to his home.
Alright, roll linguistics with advantage, Argyle.
I rolled a 19.
He's gonna get it home. Yeah. He'll shrug and he'll point like sort of the direction you guys pointed before and start walking that way if you want to follow. And he'll wave for you to follow.
Yes, we do.
He still seems very confused, but he'll lead you through the windy pollen, and Zalshan will follow from above, occasionally blinking a light so you know she's up there. You can see the base of the ship sort of dipping below the thick pollen. It's a little bit thinner down here on the ground because it moves around so much. You guys will walk for a while over some tiny ridges and dips in the ground like little ditches, things like that, little craters, until you reach another tiny village that looks very similar to the one you just left, with just different markings on the doors. And outside of their village is also a little rock stepped up, but inside of their enclosures are many, many more palm-sized fleshy creatures that have more prickly fur that seem to be rolling around, and these creatures seem to be eating the lichen in the air. So that in this area, the air seems to be clear, as these little tiny palm-sized creatures suck up the pollen all around them, like little pollen sponges, little bristly fur. They don't seem as fun to pick up as the porcos, but you can see better in this little village. But it's the same. It looks the same as the other village, except like I said, the air is a little bit clearer. Same tiny-looking people, just like the tiny people in the other village, except with different markings on their little tiny armor and their little tiny bodies. It's gonna be just a different tribe.
I take out my sword and I draw the symbol of the opposing tribe that we were just at into the pollen, and then right next to it I draw the symbol of this tribe in the pollen, and then I draw a big circle around it.
With a linguistics roll, you can try to be communicating something.
Unity.
Yes.
And roll me linguistics to try to communicate unity.
I got 18 linguistics. What the
I
hell?
got 15.
Yeah, they seem to get that you're trying to draw the picture of two tribes and two things together, but they sort of like erupts them into political debate almost immediately as soon as you do that. And you hear them using that same mochin word that seems to sound like monster to Argyle now. You guys don't know that still, but they seem to be cursing the other tribe. One of them walks over and like wipes out the other tribe's symbol. The one that does it is the one wearing the funny hat in the tribe. It appears to be their leader.
Do they have like a local history museum around here that we can find out what the hell's going on?
No.
I put a flip hat on my head.
You take his little hat?
I take his
Oh,
little
no.
hat.
Yeah, sleight of hand is probably the best thing to grab his hat. Or you can roll C&B disarm. I'll also allow that if you prefer C&B.
Just trying to see where it was for the dex. I got a 22.
Oh yeah, you can snatch his little tiny hat. You can put it on your big frog head. It's it's a tiny funny hat on you, but it's this little pointy rock basically that he was balancing on top of his head. You can balance it on yours.
I do that.
I mean, you can tell he's like cursing at you now, but you're a big one and he can't challenge you, especially with your big allies around. So you can just tell he's like trying to communicate to you that he's like pointing to the thing he wiped out and is making like angry gestures, trying to communicate to you. And he's hopping up and down trying to get his hat back from you like a kid. When you're playing keep away, he's like trying to jump up and get his hat back from you, but can't reach the top of your head if you stand up. He's gonna start trying to climb you to get his hat if you don't do anything else, Gus. Yeah, he climbs up your body, so this guy's climbing you now.
Yeah, I just take him down and set him down on the ground.
Roll me a C&B to get him off of you when he's climbing you.
Oh, I got an 18.
Yeah, you have no problem grabbing him and putting him back down off you when he climbs up. He's gonna keep trying to climb you. It's like an annoying little kid. You can keep over and over again peeling him off of you. He obviously wants his hat back. He doesn't like this other tribe, but other than that, you guys aren't getting much information.
Oh yeah, I don't let him keep climbing me. And eventually I take my sword out and point it at him.
Roll me Intimidate to see if he gets to that point.
That's another 18.
I mean, he doesn't want that big-ass blade to go through his little tiny body, so he'll stand down trying to get his hat. But you can tell he's stomping around, and you can tell the village is now mocking him because his crown has been taken by you. You've definitely, created a stir.
Then I take the hat, I chop up the hat.
Alright, so little rocks. You just want to smash it in your hand? You want to crush it?
And I draw a depiction of the hat on the ground. I mark it out with an X. And I redraw symbols again of both tribes and put a big circle around it.
Roll me linguistics and diplomacy to do that again.
Argyle punches you in the face. Tries to wanton
Linguistics,
destruction.
that's a...
That poor hat.
And then what else did I have to...
Diplomacy to see how well it goes.
And that's 18.
Alright, so when you crush that little tiny hat in your hand, Argyle's going to try to throw a punch at you, so roll for initiative with Argyle, just for a quick punch.
Kind of 4. So he punches the shit out of me.
Yeah, so you're going to get a punch in there, Argyle, so go ahead and roll one regular strength attack on Kesplix to get just one little punch in there. You can stop after the one punch if that's all you wanted to get in there, of course.
Roll a 1.
So you're going to miss your punch, obviously, and fall.
Wow.
And rolling a natural one, you're gonna like crush some of the buildings in town. You like fell over and like crushed some of the little tiny buildings. You knocked over some little tiny walls. They get what your message is, but they point over at their little spiny creatures and go, Panaiki, Panaiki! They point at the Porco, they go, Porco, Panaiki, Porco, Panaiki! Argyle being able to comprehend their language, you can tell they're saying that the Panaiki are threatened by the Porcos, that the Porcos attack them, and that they're dangerous. Their Panaiki get eaten by the Porcos, and they're angry about that. But only Argyle understands that. Everyone else just hears Porco Panaiki.
I relay this to the rest of the group, saying that they are upset about the other tribe, just as I am upset about wanton destruction of perfectly acceptable headgear.
I would say our options are at this point, wipe out the Porcos, or since it seems that maybe we can roll some knowledge of nature or something like that, maybe we can crossbreed Porcos with the Panaki ever and make a breed that works coherently for these two people and brings them together.
That's a genius idea, and the literal representation of the unity that I'm trying to show in a figurative and spiritual sense.
Fuck the prime directives. Does anyone want to roll like a knowledge of nature and we can start doing like a little furry ball fuck program to bring these two tribes together? I got a 9.
29.
Yeah, Tomoko is immediately. You can look at these. You can also observe the Porco and the Panaki and observe their differences. These animals could not breed with each other. Would not breed with each other. Porcos would devour Panaki. Panaki need a lot more space. They need area to roam. Even though they're smaller creatures, they need more area. But the Porcos will just eat them. They won't have sex with them. They'll only devour them. I mean, as soon as the Porco you guys have gets anywhere near a Panaki, he gets sort of like ravenous. It's like you don't see the teeth on this creature until you get near a Panaki. And now all of a sudden, this little furry basketball you had, as soon as you guys get near a Panaki, it shows its teeth. Like you could tell it would eat them if it had a chance.
Alright, well, how about we take a couple Panaki with us to take back to the other tribe so they can start breeding their own Panakis to feed their Porcos. Or, I'm trying to be nice here, but I'm just saying, let's just kill one.
I'm cool with that.
Trying to save deers from being ate by bears. Like, it's just like a natural nature type thing that's going on.
But if we could find a way that maybe this tribe provides the other tribe with their Panakis, and then the other tribe gives them something in return, they can have a harmonious relationship. Or, that's just me being nice. I'd say let's just take one of these tribes off the map.
Roll a perception check as you guys are going through all this.
What if we build a wall?
Yoshi rolled a natural 20.
Woo!
18.
12.
Alright, maybe it's Yoshi that spots these cans. The wall that Argyle fell into earlier when he tripped over, crushed in one of these very primitive looking stone walls and one of the, they all seem to be like living quarters and then like a ranch area for their little Panaki. But the wall that Argyle crushed exposed what was inside of one of these little huts. And Yoshi was the first one to notice there are some conglomerate brand food cans of little potted meat that Yoshi liked so much that he'd gotten before. Maybe he just recognized the label and is excited about the potted meat.
Yeah, no, I don't try to control him if he wants to try to tear into something.
Yeah,
It's one of his favorite
he's gonna
foods.
smash into that house and try to rip open a can, which is hard with his little teeth. But he's like got it stuck to his sticky tongue and trying to like crunch down on a little metal can. And eventually the meat squeezes out into his mouth and he leaves a like crushed up little can behind that he spits out when he's done.
Can we ask them where they got it from? I know they got it from the conglomerate, but let's see if they're the source or if, it comes from somewhere off-world.
I'll point to the cans and I'll say, big one?
Yeah, they'll repeat the same word back to you as if to affirm creatures like you brought this meat thing. Yeah, that's pretty easy conversation to have. You don't see any signs of conglomerate base, but obviously conglomerate ships come here and trade. Possibly for
Well,
this
what if-
Panaki meat or Porcos meat or whatever else, but they've done some business with conglomerate in the past.
What are they trading up? You want to find some way to poison all the Panaki and Porco meat so it's a conglomerate? Or you got any ideas? I got nothing on this fucking planet.
Roll for initiative.
Ooh.
I got a 15.
6.
23.
I got a 19 for Dr. P.
I only got a 10.
So we're going to Kali, Dr. P, Kess, then this chief who has emerged from his hut with a conglomerate laser pistol. He's like a foot and a half tall, so to him it's like holding a very big gun. Although in you guys' hands it would be just a normal pistol. He looks very angry that someone smashed his hat. So he's got a gun pointed at you, Kessblix, because you smashed his hat. You can tell he's come out of his house very angry and armed.
I'm gonna go over there. I'm gonna kick the shit out of him.
Shouldn't be hard, he's a tiny man.
Yeah, just literally stop him with that. That's 18.
That's a hit.
14 damage.
Alright, so in one stomp, Nikali makes him bloodied. He's bloodied on the ground holding his little pistol twitching. He's near death.
I'm gonna use a Brawl of Fury, and I'm just going to double stomp
Say 10?
it. Yeah, 10.
Yeah, that guy's pretty much murdered. He's not dead, but he's near death. He's a bloody mess on the ground. You've stomped this little tiny man. Unless someone goes through the process of healing him, it doesn't seem like anybody's going to. He's going to bleed out and die very soon. Tomoko can come heal him if she wants, but he's pretty messed up right now. And almost immediately, everyone in the town just like bows down to you guys. Like, after that show of force, all the little tiny villagers like bow to you, Nikali, and start saying "Big One" very reverently over and over again. Big One, Big One, Big One. No one wants to fight you after that man got stomped in one turn.
I would say, like bandage him up. I would heal him using one of my potions.
So just do a heal check.
Yeah, if you're just trying to.
So 24.
You can bandage him up. He's not going to be in great shape, but you can stop him from bleeding. He's just near death. If you want to use a potion on him to help him return to life, you can, Dr. P.
It's just a display of, we
can give life and take it away.
Not wanting to be violent this whole time.
He gets 7 hit points back.
Yeah, he's still unconscious, but not like he's going to die very soon. He looks like he could probably recover from this. It might take a couple days. He just looks like he's very injured.
Alright, well, we did our best.
You're scary to them now, Nikali. If you want to intimidate something out of these people, you can.
Maybe translate for you as well.
I'm gonna take the laser pistol off the ground. That's mine now.
Yeah, you can do that.
Alright, yeah. So I'm just gonna take that, and then I'm going to...
kind of tiny in your hands, of course.
NASA. Then I'm going to say, translate this, bow down and obey. And I'm going to intimidate, like, I'm going to roar.
I'm gonna roar at them, yeah. It probably won't even need a translation. If you just want to roll me an intimidation check, they might all... But if you want to roar at them...
So that's a 15.
Yeah, this whole tribe bows to you. They seem to be at your command. If you can communicate what you want, they'll do it, for sure.
The other towns, they start fucking and intermingling.
So is there anything you wanted? Really, I basically have to move off my hand now.
Does anybody have any ideas while we're here? Like, do you want to do anything?
We need something to power a brain to power this antenna.
Oh, you're talking about taking a little person. Oh, okay. That's dark. I like it. Let's take the chief from each village so that we can experiment on them, and then leave this entire area in chaos and get out.
I love it. If you want a Tanaki, get a Tanaki.
Want someone to roll a CMB to grab a little Panaki?
25.
Like a tennis ball size. You can go grab some little tennis ball guys with that. Fur's more bristly and prickly, so some of the little things are going to stick into the thing of your suit, but you're not bare palming it, so it's not going to hurt you. Had you done it in your open palm without a suit on, it might do like 1 point of damage, but it just sticks into your little suit, your space suit. You shake them off, but there's little bristly little balls.
Alright.
So yeah, you got a little tennis ball sized creature. Dr. P's got a basketball sized creature. Are you keeping the little man?
We're taking the chief.
You take out the past little man and you leave the worshipping tribe behind. Do you guys want to get aboard the ship, or do you just want to walk back towards the other village, or what are you guys doing from this point to get out of here? The ship is above you guys, so you could easily fly wherever you want to go.
I cut all the fences of these little, the rest of the little spiny...
Well, they're more like rocks stacked up to keep them in a certain area. They're pretty spread out, but you can knock over some rocks and leave holes in it so that Panaki can escape.
Yes.
Alright, so Kess knocks over some rocks. The villagers, of course, act very upset and rush to fix it when you guys are leaving. So you can see as you're leaving, the villagers are trying to repair your damage.
We want to go back to the other village and take the 20-hat guy with us as well.
Would you like to walk there, or would you like to board the Zaoshan and fly back there?
We're going to walk. It's not that far, right?
It's like 20-30 minutes, but you guys can do that. You're able-bodied and young.
Yeah.
You guys walk the 30 minutes back to the other village. From this village, over the crest, over some craters, through some pollen clouds. The villagers are happy to see you. They praise you. They think you got rid of their enemy. You're coming back with a porco, and they see that you have a Panaki with you as well, and they cheer that. And you can tell they want you to feed it to their porcos.
Let's put down the leader of the other tribe in front of them and see if the chief of this one comes out to greet him.
Yeah, he's around there. You put his body down. The whole tribe dances around and cheers. You defeated the enemy. The chief comes out and puts his foot on him and holds his fist up and cheers in his little tiny pointy hat.
Take that, motherfucker!
Roll a CMB to grab this chief of this village.
That's a 19.
Still enough to grab a little man. So you've got him in both of your hands, of course. Like I said, not as easy as Nikali, but you've got a little man.
Yeah, I'm holding.
He's trying to wriggle free. Did not roll high enough.
while I hold him.
He's definitely fighting it. I rolled high enough that he's wriggling a lot, but not enough to get free.
I guess I would draw in the sand the same symbols that were drawn before, and then draw a big X through it as well. And then let's hop into Zalshan and dip out with the two chieftains.
Alright, so Zalshan will land outside the village or nearby, and you guys will board it after drawing in the pollen sand. Quickly gets blown away, but I guess everyone gets your message, hopefully.
Yeah, pretty much.
You guys have two tiny people, a basketball with fur, and a tennis ball with bristly fur. When you reboard the Zalshan through the loading dock, of course, that cargo bay area is, the outside of the ship and that cargo bay area is now covered in this fungusy pollen. So the inside of the ship has got some pollen on it. But you guys reboard the ship with two tiny people.
Yeah, I'm just gonna hang out for a moment.
Yeah, you can leave the ship parked here outside the village. No one's gonna fuck with you guys. You guys are so big and impressive.
And just
Yeah.
kidnap their chiefs.
So yeah, you guys are all like in that arboretum loading area with your captives. Argyle can still understand them.
What's the plan with these guys? Why do we have
We're
them?
gonna try to learn their language. Otherwise, I'm gonna start dissecting their brains and putting antennas in there. So your call, guys.
Their language seems to be pretty primitive. You've heard most of the words they seem to be able to say already. Even though Argyle's the only one that's really understood them, they don't seem, like I said, to be great conversationalists.
I'm confused about why we took
conjure
them
a
in the
little
first place.
holographic one of their dudes with a big hat, a very big hat, but still obviously that.
Fucking
Yeah.
huge!
Only one of the chiefs is awake right now, but yeah, you can intimidate this new chief with your hologram with a huge hat.
I don't want to intimidate. I'm not the scary one.
It seems like the huge hat would be intimidating if you're trying to say, like, I'm a bigger chief than you. That's, to me, it doesn't seem like a diplomatic move. It seems like you're implying that you're powerful, which seems intimidating.
Yeah, I mean they can do whatever they want, pretty much.
Wait, what's the
But,
goal of having them? Why did we kidnap these guys and bring them onto our ship? Like, what are we doing with them?
I intend to experiment on them.
Okay, that checks out. What
Classic Dr. P. Yeah,
about
adds up.
everybody else? What was our... What's the game plan here?
I tricked you suckers into helping me remove the two strongest people on the planet that we met, and now I get to toy with their brain muscles.
I was enjoying it the whole
Oh,
time.
yeah, I said let's.
So you guys are aboard the ship now. Would you like to take them to the med bay or something with the two tiny men, and you can lock the two creatures up? You have, because the Zalshan was a exploratory zoo ship, there are, just like there are stasis bays for you guys, there are stasis bays for, like, your animal, where Shere Khan was resting. So there are places you could store these two tiny creatures if you just want to store them, or you can let them run wild on your ship. It's kind of your call.
Let Porco let the other one run free so they can clean the pollen.
The Porcos is locked up now. The Panaki's eating pollen.
Personal room.
You want to put the Porco in your room? There are no personal rooms. You guys kind of all sleep in the same bunk area, but you can leave the Porco running free in the bunk area if you want.
I also want to poke the one who's awake with my hologram and ask him, where did he get the pistol?
I mean, he speaks a primitive language you don't understand, but I mean, it's pretty obvious it's a conglomerate weapon.
21 linguistics.
Oh yeah, it's pretty obviously a conglomerate weapon, and he says something very similar to the word conglomerate. It sounds squeaky and weird, but it's pretty obviously interpreted as like conglomerate.
The Porco is a personal pet. The Pinocchio run around and eat up all the spores.
Yeah, Pinocchio will roll around and clean your pollen. Your Porco, either you can leave that running free in the bunks or lock it up in a stasis pod, your guys' call.
Alright, no more questions. Y'all can deep freeze him if you would like.
Well,
Depending on what we want to do, are we planning on departing this planet, I assume? Or do we want to, orbit while I do some, dissections and try to figure out how and why they work?
planet has valuables or technology on it. I don't have a name.
This is probably the most valuable thing they have.
Perform your experiments en route, Dr. Paracelsus.
And you guys want to leave this planet for good? Pull away as you guys start
For now.
experimenting on some tiny men?
Yeah, now, we always come back to a
I honestly don't know. I was going to try to implant one of the antennas into them, but that's not really going to do us much good unless we can control the creature that we put it into. I guess I would ask Argyle to accompany me to the med bay while I do my Dr. Frankenstein shit, where I'm going to try to implant this antenna in one of the chieftain's heads.
And do you have a craft or profession or something that helps you do implants? You do an implant with a heal skill. But you can also have the help of the ship. If you're using the ship's medbay, you guys can roll together, and you guys want to, as Zalshan and Dr. P together, try to implant this thing in this guy. That's possible.
If I have a little bit of time beforehand, I can use profession genetics to map out the specifics of them with a sample.
As long as Dr. P's willing to be patient, I feel like that's fine. You can totally even knock this guy out if you want to. The other guy's unconscious, but you can knock this guy unconscious, and you would have no problem. They're little tiny men, so...
Okay, so I got a 23 on a profession geneticist.
You understand the genetics of these little creatures perfectly. They are definitely like tiny humanoids. Apart from like the fact that some of their organs are in weird places, they're just like little tiny men.
Okay, so can I provide a skull map to Dr. Paracelsus to give them a bonus?
Yeah, their brains are small, so these antennas will be like very large in there. That's probably the hardest part. Is you probably have to like mount it to the outside or top of their skull. Unlike the other creatures before, it could go inside their skull. But this definitely could be happening. You can like attach wires from it. It would be more like a helmet than an implant on these creatures, but you could do it. Someone could take the lead and let the other person assist, and that would be the.
I'd like to page Kessblix.
There, Kessblix comes.
Yeah. The hologram, I say, would you be prepared to mercifully end the subject's life should this experiment not go the way that Dr. Paracelsus and I have predicted?
Solemnly bow.
Okay, now we're ready.
All right, so your blade's ready in case things go haywire. Roll me. Who wants to take the lead? Because that'll be the bigger number, and then whoever assists, you can. If it's above a 10, you can add a 1. Above a 20, you can add a 2 to the person's number. So someone's going to help somebody. Who wants to take the lead?
A hologram of Zalshan bows to Dr. Paracelsus and says, "Despite my vast amount of knowledge, I have not achieved a postdoctorate degree."
I rolled a 16 on heal.
All right.
And I rolled a 27 to assist.
All right, so that'll be plus 2, so an 18. So it's not going to be a great job. It's definitely a very hackneyed job with this, but I'm still going to let it work, although not great. So it's got like some plugs, and there's obviously like exposed wires and stuff. And he's like I said, he's wearing the antenna like a helmet, but it is like blinking again once you guys get it plugged in. He's unconscious, so he can't say anything, but you can tell he's obviously receiving a signal. It's blinking slowly, like you're at the end of its range, though. It blinks more when you're closer to that other planet, but it's definitely within range of something, picking up a signal.
Should I give him a healing potion, perhaps?
Do it.
You okay with that?
Dump some gooey fluid down his throat.
That's going to be a +6.
Oh yeah, he's awake. He has 4 hit points now, so he's up and speaking. He's still speaking in his little squeaky, weird voice. So you guys would need linguistics to understand it, or Argyle there with comprehend language, or someone else with comprehend language. Otherwise, he can speak now and is receiving incoming signal from this antenna.
Well, I can only understand him.
That's the start. If you want to enter the med bay at this point, if Zalshan wants to alert you that you're needed,
Okay.
you can come in and hear what this guy is saying. He's basically saying alert over and over again in his little tiny squeaky voice.
Okay. What alert?
He doesn't respond to you. He seems to just be repeating what the antenna is. He's receiving information and just verbally repeating it. He doesn't seem to have any control at all. He has a dead stare in his eyes. Before, when you talk to these creatures, they seem very responsive and they looked at you and gave you acknowledgement. And this guy seems to now have a dead blank stare in his eye with this antenna in his head. He seems to not acknowledge your presence at all and just repeats alert.
Maybe we should rip it out and move on to the next subject and see if something better happens. I mean, we're basically we're alerting the bad guys to our location, so they're going to be coming for us at this point. That's what I'm thinking.
Probably right.
Yeah, it's probably not good. Yeah.
I'm going to say, Cass,
Can you take it out?
With a heal check, you can remove it, or Kes can just chop his head off. Either way, it would end it for sure.
I'll attempt a heal check.
Yeah, that's fine. It's like I said, it's more like a helmet. You guys didn't do a full implant, so it might be easy just to rip it off. You might just have a couple wires hanging out of his head.
21.
Yeah, you can even do that without doing any damage. You can remove the helmet without it even hurting the guy. He's just got some wires hanging off his neck now and stuff, and diodes and stuff off his brain. But yeah, you take the antenna off, it stops blinking. You're no longer receiving a signal. He returns to consciousness. He gets his sense of self back. He looks around and just says, "Big ones, big ones."
I dispense one good berry for him.
Oh, he munches on it. You can see him, it's big to him too, like an apple, and he just holds it and just enjoys it to its fullest extent, like a wonderful piece of fruit. He loves it here now. He seems very happy. And he seems in awe of everything around him, all these magic plants and machines that you have.
He regains 3 HP.
Yeah, he's much healthier. He's at 7 hit points now, about half of his full hit points. And he's happy to be on your ship and alive and not have his thoughts controlled. But he still has all the implants, so if you guys wanted to reconnect that helmet at some time, you could do it with an easy heal check without hurting him.
I consider this an absolute win.
He's going to sit there and heal, but he will be contained here in your med bay unless you let him somewhere else otherwise. You can even lock him in bed if you want, however you want to restrain him. You can control where he goes otherwise. He's tiny and you control the ship. The other guy's still unconscious. Your Panaiki at this point is eating most of the pollen, so it's roaming around, sucking the pollen off plants in your garden, which has been very helpful. It kind of tickles.
Okay. Is it consuming too much? Can I roll a knowledge nature to observe how much pollen it's eating.
I mean, for you don't want that pollen on you, so there's no such thing as it consuming. It doesn't seem to appear to be eating anything except the pollen. It seems to only
So
have
it's just eating that pollen, like it's not attacking.
Yeah, it's not attacking the other plants.
Hitting other plants.
Yeah, even if it does, it seems to be spreading pollen because it rolls around a lot. So even if it does collect the pollen, it's not doing anything harmful to your other plants at all.
Okay. So it's just eating up this excess pollen. I can deal with that.
But in the meantime, like, can we put these two guys in the stasis deep freeze, and then I'll take the pollen sample that I took earlier and use my knowledge alchemy to make more to keep feeding the Kanaki.
You're on the Zaushan, especially with the genetics and your sample. You guys, it's a fungus. It wants to procreate. It wants to live. As long as you have a moist environment and heavy winds, so you might need to like increase your airflow in the ship, which means it might spread to other areas of the ship if you do that. But as long as you guys are willing to have this pollen on board, it doesn't seem to have any ill effects to you guys. So as long as you have something willing to eat it on the board of the ship, and you're willing to let it roam around eating pollen on your ship, that's fine. It'd be like having a living Roomba. But you basically you'd have to let the pollen be introduced to the whole ship for this to go on. It would be into your whole air supply.
We could make it in a enclosed area, and then I could feed him a pellet of pollen every now and then, and he can still run around.
You could enclose it to just the arboretum, and then there'd be pollen in there it could eat, and it would be the same thing. It'd be like having a filter fish in an aquarium, and that'd be fine.
And it would also help cross-pollinate other things.
Yeah, because it moves around a lot. It's like having a bumblebee. Yeah, it's going from plant to
Yeah,
plant.
I mean, I got a 22 nature to know if there's going to be any to try to predict if there's going to be any ill effects from introducing these into our ecological system.
From what you studied about the Pinaki, the only thing about them is they need a lot of space, and you're giving this thing its own space. So as long as it has pollen to eat, it's not going to be dangerous. You only have to worry about it if it gets sick or something. It's an animal, so bad things could happen, of course. But otherwise, as long as it has food to eat and you have an environment that has room to move around, and you're giving it plenty of space, which you are doing, which is what it needs, is pollen and space. You're giving the two things it needs, so I think it'll be fine.
So I'll line up then. As for the two friends,
it will die sooner or later because it can't procreate. Like it's not going to be immortal or anything. But until the end of its life cycle, you can have this thing living in your ship.
I could also clone it.
True. As long as you guys take a genetic sample before it dies, yeah.
Sample the Zaushan, of course, so that he can keep recreating and spraying Arboretum.
Yeah, you guys have a fungus sample and a DNA sample of this creature now. So now you guys have an airborne pollen on the ship at all times. Most of it's in the Arboretum, so it's not affecting anyone, but there is pollen in the air now. So if you have allergies, it might affect you some, but otherwise it's not a big deal. There's just more pollen in the air on the ship in general.
Probably more than usual.
Because it's already a plant ship. There's already tons anyway. So yeah.
And then, I say we let the Mokeen and the Babini run free.
Just let them wander on the ship. They don't seem to like each other, but your ship is very large for them, so they can find different areas of the ship and just hide out, and you can have little tiny men on your ship somewhere now.
Maybe work on figuring out why they don't like each other.
Exactly. Well, a cultural exchange, they're free for Dr. Paracelsus to experiment on them whenever he wants.
One of them has implants ready for an antenna. Argyle is able to pick up that they just don't like each other, and it seems to be very much based on the Porco Panaki threat. So it's not a threat to the Panaki, but if it was out, you get the impression that it would eat the Panaki at its first opportunity. You guys can gather that, but they will pretty much avoid each other, but they'll be on your ship just hanging out on different ends of the ship. If you want to put them in stasis at some point, they can go to stasis, but otherwise they're going to live here. Just remember, Zaushan, that means you have to subtract more green points to feed them often every day as well, but it's just 2 more mouths to feed. We'll consider them 1 green point together since they're both half-size, though. You'll have to shove them in stasis. You'll have to find them and put them in stasis if you want to put them in stasis, but otherwise they're going to be wandering around wild. The Porcos is running loose in you guys' bunk.
Do we go to a new planet now?
Can I combine a perception and a knowledge astrography to try to get some bearings as to where we are? So it's a 16 perception and a 22 knowledge.
I mean, you're on the planet closest to these 3 suns, so you're about to cross the midpoint of this galaxy. This is obviously the midpoint that's holding all these planets in some sort of orbit, is these 3 suns. So you're about to cross over to the other side of this galaxy. There do appear to be other planets over there. You're still in the outskirts of Conglomerate Reach, but there are still Nautsia in the area, so you've gone this far into the known galaxy, and there's still the threat of your known enemies.
I'll gather everybody together and say, I think we should try to go for more civilized territory now that the heat has died down after approximately 7 to 10 years.
I'll say with that roll you just had, the next planet past the suns, you can tell, does have conglomerate influence and is more built up technology-wise than what you just encountered.
I say, Dr. Paracelsus, I believe we should manufacture massive quantities of moon kelp extract.
Sure, I'll get to work on that while we travel there.
Just give it a green point value, and that's how many points of value it'll have.
3,000?
3,000 green points worth of extract. That's like 1,000 ounces of dry product turned into oil.
So This will be serious money. Of course, Dr. Paracelsus, because of your knowledge, you will be paid an additional share. As you know, I have no use for money, but I do have material needs that might be addressed to serve all of you better.
It will take several months to reach the next planet, so you guys can do that as long as you also subtract green points for meals and stuff as well for whoever's awake. And don't forget your 1 extra green point for your tiny people.
Yeah,
And I'm working on extracting the entire time, so I'm going to be awake.
Yeah, you'll be awake. I think it sounds like everyone's going to be awake for all this since you guys are just traveling a couple months and everyone likes being awake. You guys can just kill your time on the ship, just
I
gardening
guess
and
I'll also
eating
be on
food,
and off, going to sleep and working in the
hanging out,
arboretum. till I
practicing your
help also-
moves. Yeah. I mean, you kill time during the day like you do as a living person. You know, you'll find something to do until you have to go to sleep every day.
I'm going to try and make makeshift private quarters.
Dividing curtains so that you can like draw a curtain to like that kind of thing.
Yes, exactly.
What area would you like to divide? The bunks or somewhere else? Or
I guess the bunks area.
how much would you like to divide it? Like every bed can be private now because it was kind of open. Or do you want to like?
Yeah.
So that'll be Argos project during time is now all the beds have curtains you can draw. If you want to be alone in your bed, you can now draw a curtain. I'll allow that. I assume you're using your spider silk fabric. So as long as there's no fires, it should be nice and.
Yes.
All right, yeah. Use your spider silk and draw curtains for all the beds now.
This concludes our transmission. Tune in next time for more Dungeon to the Stars. This episode of Long Distance Dungeons & Dragons Dinner Theater is sponsored by our fans and friends on Patreon. Donate today. Keep Long Distance Dungeons & Dragons Dinner Theater alive.